occurs to me that we kind of skipped over one thing that probably should have come first. If one of my distinguished fellow panelists wants to go over the 5 principles in the report.
That probably would be a good idea.
Yeah, I just mentioned one.
Yeah, we have 5 recommendations, and these are not meant to be conducted in series, but rather in parallel. The first one is political inclusion and power sharing in Afghanistan. We see the conflict in Afghanistan primarily being a civil war. It's multi-layered and very complex, but the roots of the conflict go back to the warfare that began in the 70s. This needs to be addressed. The government needs to be reformed to be inclusive. Right now it's a very exclusionary, very centralized form of government. The second recommendation is a cessation of combat in southern Afghanistan and a withdrawal from southern Afghanistan, because we see foreign troop presence as being a catalyst for the insurgency. The people are joining the ranks of the Taliban because of foreign troop presence. Additionally, we call for a gradual withdrawal of troops to 6,000 to 8,000 next year, to 30-some-odd thousand the following year, in order to begin that pace of drawdown for economic reasons, as well as to stop being a catalyst, as well as to extricate ourselves from basically someone else's civil war. The third point is to reemphasize Al-Qaeda and transnational terror groups, to refocus our energies on them. We are by no means shy about how we feel about Al-Qaeda. We are Al-Qaeda hawks. We see them as a threat to this nation, and not an existential threat, but certainly the economic, as well as, you look back to what a, 10 or 9 years ago, what a change 9/11 made to this world. I mean, you just look back to how things were 9 years ago and how things are now, and what a change that one day really changed the world. We don't need another one. I mean, it's just that simple. So we emphasize our focus, we emphasize our energies on actually going after Al-Qaeda and other transnational groups for a variety of means. The fourth one is economic development. We've spent about $50 billion in Afghanistan since 2001, just the U.S. alone has, on economic development, primarily through the U.S. government, the U.S. military, U.S. aid. We're calling for a refocusing of economic development to do it better, because while you can point to X amount many schools being built, X amount many people having cell phones and so forth, still the average life expectancy in Afghanistan is still 44 years of age. Nearly over 1 in 5, nearly 1 in 4 children die before their 5th birthday. There are just tremendous, Afghanistan ranks in the bottom 3 in nearly every category for quality of life. So obviously this $50 billion has not been put to good use, so we call for a reevaluation of how we do it, and then keeping up with it, but in a manner that's effective to help build stability as well as help that country grow. And then the fifth recommendation is international, regional diplomacy, something we don't have right now, something that we talk quite a bit about. One thing too, going back to the political reconciliation part of this, the U.S. has for years been saying that we are supportive of talks, but one of the things when you read the Wall Street Journal, and I can't remember if it came out yesterday or today, and it talks about how for the first time ever we're allowing safe passage of Taliban to go and speak with the Karzai government. Well, it's pretty hard to negotiate with somebody if you're afraid that on the drive home you're going to get a Hellfire missile through your window, through your windshield. I mean, that's really not helping or supporting negotiations if we were not allowing safe passage of negotiators. So the fact, like as Paul said, and we're in complete agreement here, that it's very encouraging that these steps are being taken. On the regional level, we just don't have a regional plan. I mean, Ambassador Holbrooke has been on this job for 18 months now, and it's my view that he's just not been given the resources and the support necessary to conduct regional diplomacy. Because if you do not have regional diplomacy, and this is why it's important for the U.S. to lead efforts in Afghanistan, to be at the forefront of negotiations, to be at the head of the table and having Pakistan, India, Iran, China, Russia, the Central Asian states, Saudi Arabia, all those relevant nations around the table. the U.S. needs to lead those efforts because it really is only the U.S. that can get those countries to agree on what would be for them a 70% solution in Afghanistan. If you don't have that, you're going to have exactly what happened back last February or so, when the Taliban's #2 was trying to negotiate with the Karzai government, and because Pakistan was out of the loop on it, they snatched him up and basically shut down negotiations. So if you don't have the United States leading efforts at a regional level, you're just not going to have an effective result. You need to have something very similar, in my opinion, to what we saw in the 90s with the Balkans and with Ambassador Holbrooke then, where he was the one man in charge. Everybody worked for him. Right now, our focus is completely on military efforts and not nearly, as we say, we're trying to be diplomatic. We say we're emphasizing political efforts, but the reality is it hasn't been borne out in actuality. So those are our 5 recommendations, and as you'll see, they're clearly highlighted in the report with some more emphasis on what we're, some more flesh or some more meat on those recommendations than what I just said.